Well done for making it this far. You must feel like you know old J. Alfred pretty well by now. So, what do you think he'll do for the grand finale? Will he finally ask his overwhelming question, or just stay in a state of being overwhelmed? Let's find out. He admits an uncomfortable truth about himself. No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. Am an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt, an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious, and meticulous, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse. At times, indeed, almost ridiculous, almost, at times, the fool. Does this mean he's resolved to abandon the whole thing? Let's break this stanza, or verse, down a bit. Here we have an intertextual reference to Shakespeare's famous tragedy, Hamlet. This is an intertextual reference because it is a more detailed and deliberate reference to another text, whereas an allusion is more of a passing reference. But why Hamlet? After so much indecision throughout his monologue, or extended continuous speech, Prufrock makes a very decisive statement. No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. Although Hamlet famously struggled with his own overwhelming question throughout the play, Prufrock doesn't have Hamlet's courage to act on it. Nor does Prufrock have Hamlet's sense of self-importance or status. Instead, he is more like an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt an easy tool. Prufrock is more like the character of old Polonius, a supporting character who's killed off early. Like Polonius, Prufrock is deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious and meticulous, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse. In other words, he's submissive. He gets by with his intelligence, attention to detail, and good verbal skills. But ultimately, he's a bit obtuse or thick-headed. In fact, Prufrock sees himself as so ridiculous that the character of the fool or court jester is a better comparison. The fool in Hamlet was Yorick, whose skull was famously exhumed during the play, held by Prince Hamlet and used as a symbol of mortality and decay. Poor Prufrock. Have you ever met anyone with such low self-esteem? Hey team, just a reminder, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It really helps the channel out, and our next upload could be on something taught in your next class. Thanks, and back to the video. After repeating throughout his monologue that there will be time, Prufrock now faces a different truth in a rhyming couplet or two lines that rhyme. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. Prufrock's complaint, I grow old, is an example of epizeuxis, which is where words or phrases are repeated in quick succession with no other words in between. His epizeuxis falls like a death knell, reminding Prufrock that his time is almost up. As he shrinks with age, he will roll the bottoms of his trousers rather than buy new ones. This implies that he will give up on fashion, which preoccupied him earlier in his monologue. Remember him boasting about his morning coat, collar, necktie rich and modest, and tie-pin? In the next stanza, Prufrock ponders how to deal with his balding hair and unreliable bowels with a series of rhetorical questions. Remember, these are questions that don't expect a reply and are instead used for their dramatic effect. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. He feels the pull of the ocean. Perhaps he will spend his twilight years walking the beach in flannel trousers. There seems to be a tone or emotion of contentment as he resolves to spend his days by the sea. But it is made sinister by the mythological allusion to mermaids. Not to be confused with the bird-like sirens from Homer's Odyssey, mermaids are bad omens in British maritime folklore. They foretell disaster, trick sailors into giving up their gold, and drag them to the bottom of the sea. Even so, Prufrock believes that even mermaids are disinterested in him. He admits this in a monostitch. I do not think that they will sing to me. A monostitch is a one-line stanza. It stands alone to emphasise Prufrock's dejection and isolation. He ends his monologue on a surreal note, continuing the imagery of the mermaids. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves, blown back when the wind blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by seagulls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us, and we drown. Prufrock abandons his worldly desires and retreats into a fantasy world of his own making. He asserts that he has already seen the mermaids riding seawards through the choppy waves. The visual imagery of the water white and black makes it seem inhospitable, but Prufrock is drawn to it. Remember, visual imagery is the use of words to help the audience see a mental picture. Here, the image of the dark, foam-capped water shows us how Prufrock dreams of oblivion. Thinking back to earlier lessons, we now return to his wish to live on the floors of silent seas. Prufrock seems to lose touch with reality at this point. Like a traumatised sailor, he recalls living among mermaids and seagirls in the chambers of the sea. Perhaps this is the peaceful world he retreats to in his mind when he feels completely overwhelmed. Ultimately, it's clear that Prufrock would prefer the company of merfolk to that of human women with their novels, marmalade and teacups. The only threat in his fantasy world is human interruption, which causes them all to drown. Here, T.S. Eliot reverses the myth about mermaids dragging men to their deaths. Humans are the ones who lure others to destruction. Is Prufrock dashed on the rocks of life? Is he washed up? In the end, Prufrock chose silence and solitude on his own terms. He decided it wasn't worthwhile to ask his overwhelming question, and looked to a future of seclusion and possibly mild delusion in his twilight years. Do you think he did the right thing? Or should he have risked embarrassment for the possible reward of companionship? Perhaps, sadly, Prufrock was never in the right state of mind to sustain a relationship. Will there ever be a chance for him? Or should he just get a cat? Great job. You've just finished analysing one of the greatest poems of the 20th century. Whether you love old J. Alfred or feel otherwise, at least he was honest. It's great to be bold and brave, ask risky questions and push past your fears. But sometimes we just don't feel like being brave. And that's okay too. So whether you choose to be bold or decide to hang back, Prufrock and his seagirls will cheer you on. We hope you enjoyed this Schooling Online production. For more easy lessons, check out our other videos.